Who better than me?
Greetings and salutations, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. Before I get started, as usual, please like and subscribe and share this video with a friend, with a colleague, with an enemy. Just share it because I appreciate all the views, good or bad. Now, I guess what I'll start off with was the official retirement of Manny Pacquiao. I thought he had actually done that 2 weeks ago because that's what I saw. I saw him post something saying, I'm focusing on my presidential run. So I thought it was official then, but clearly went onto social media and just rubber stamped it. There's not a lot I really need to say because most people know the history of Pacquiao. 8-weight world champion, 5-division lineal champion within that run. I don't even know the amount of belts he won. So overall, he's had a fantastic career. Was in the sport for 26 years. That's some achievement. What was it from? I think the age of 15. From the age of 15 up to 42, 43 coming up. It's a tremendous run. 4 separate generations of fighters he's been involved in. Has he won belts in all 4 of those generations? He may very well have. I need to double check that. But overall, regardless of some of the losses he took, some of the potential allegations, nothing's been founded. So, can't talk about speculations and allegations at this point. He had a fantastic career. He's an ATG. People will have arguments saying that he's a top 10 of all time. I don't know if I'm ready to have the argument yet. I'm going to have to do a bit more research on my side of everyone that's in the run, because I can probably see 10 people that I would put above him, but that could just be bias on my side. So I might need to just have a work through that list. But overall, Manny, I would have preferred if he retired straight after the Keith Thurman fight, because that would have been amazing. Beat the young lion, sail off into the sunset, legacy fully cemented. But just like most, he stayed on a bit too long, carried on when he didn't have to. Not many people get to do the Joe Calzaghe or the Andre Ward or the Lennox Lewis and retire on top. They always think there's one more. I got one more run in me. I can do it. Just one more fight. But again, that hasn't tarnished his legacy. The Ugas loss, because everyone already knew what he'd done, and he was well outside of his era to begin with. But shout out to Manny. Good retirement. Although I know for a fact within 2 to 3 years he's going to be back doing exhibitions, if not being crazy enough to take on one of the young lions, whether they're in the top 3 or the top 15. He'll be back. He'll do something, because he just kind of got that character. But like I said, salute to you, and enjoy retirement for now. Okay, you know what? I saw a tweet from Mr. Gervonta Tank Davis after Usyk did the unthinkable, to most people anyway, and beat Anthony Joshua back over the weekend. And the tweet said, I wasn't impressed, or I'm not impressed. It was one of the two. Now, initially, I wasn't even going to say anything because I feel like it wasn't even a talking point, but it's been in my head, playing in my head for a couple of days now. And I feel like I've got to address this, because let's get it clear. Nobody has to give praise or respect to Alexander Usyk if they don't want to, or to anything. We're all individuals. we're all impressed by different things. We're all not impressed by different things. Like, it is what it is. I get that. But I'm looking at that, and the first thing I'm thinking to myself personally is like, little man, who are you to give credence to being impressed or not impressed in the first place? Like, who are you? What is your credentials to be critiquing someone like that? Olympic gold medalist, undisputed cruiserweight champion, now unified heavyweight champion, in the ring with a guy that outweighed him by 20 pounds. Let's see you go in the ring with someone 20 pounds heavier than you and see how you fare in it. Who has 3 inches of height on you and 4 inches of reach. Because you were struggling with Mario Barrios, who is not that great. You struggled with a one-legged Yuriorkis Gamboa and got some fraudulent knockout in the 12th round just because the ref felt sorry for him because he couldn't stand up. But he was about to get back on his feet and finish the round. What? You're Mr. Big Time because you knocked out a blown-up featherweight in Leo Santa Cruz, who came up from other weight divisions initially, and you was coming down in weight. What? So that makes you big and bad? Really? Like, you're still living off a Jose Pedraza win from what, 4 years ago? Lost your belt on the scales. Like, who does that? Like, you're not really real in this thing. Let's be clear. Yeah, you've got talent. You've got a lot of talent. But a lot of that talent is wasted right now. Like, your potential ceiling was here. Now it's there. Like, at one point, your talent was here and your potential was there. Like, you could go all the way. Now your talent and your potential pretty much in the same spot, big man. Or should I say little man, because you're not even that big. Let's be real. Like, you think you're doing something because you're on some regular run. That's what we're going to call you, Mr. Regular. So you're not impressed with Usyk. I'm not impressed with you. Like, what have you done? Realistically, yeah, okay. IBF, super featherweight champ. Credit. Because Pedraza, that was a big win for you at the time. Because Pedraza ain't really aged that well since then, but it was a big win at the time. Regular belt against one-legged Yuriorkis Gamboa. I mean, the legit champion was there at the time. Lomachenko was there. Why didn't you go after the big dog? Because you knew you couldn't win that fight. I get it. You go back down to super featherweight and take a WBA super title from a blown-up featherweight who's actually now moving back down to featherweight. So again, what does that prove? But okay, 2-time champ. Then you go up to 140 pounds on another quest for regularity with Mario Barrios. Now, I know quite a lot of boxing. I don't know a huge amount, but I know quite a lot. I feel like if I did my Googles and my research on certain things, it'd be a long night for anyone to come at me with certain facts and figures. But I'm still a casual. And as a casual, I did not know who the fuck Mario Barrios was. Some other people did. Cool. I knew he was a WBA regular. I had never seen any of his fights before then. I didn't see the fight. He won the belt, the title one. I didn't see nothing before that. I didn't even watch your fight of him live. I watched it 2 or 3 days later. I think. That could be cap. I might have watched it that morning, to be fair. But I didn't stay up to watch it. I didn't buy that on Fight TV. I mean, what, you did like 170,000 pay-per-view buys for that. Maximum 190. What was the official numbers? 215. Okay, well we know that you can subtract something from that, so I'll say 190. But you know what? For argument's sake, I'll give you the 215. I'm not impressed. Like, you're supposed to be this big star. You should be doing at least 350 with a name or a no name. But guess what? You're always gonna be in that mediocre set because you ain't taking on anyone that's supposed to be worthy of attention. Because you fought Barrios, Josh Taylor was right there. Why go for that regular belt when the Super Championship was there? The Undisputed was there. But you went for Barrios. Again, you're on a run of regularity, and it's not impressive. I am not impressed. So before you want to be criticizing other people whose legacies are pretty much cemented at this point, like, focus on yours, innit? Because right now, your reign is trash. Horrible. Big man. Sorry. Little man. Do better. Actually, now I think about it, uh, I want to also address something with regards to a comment that was in one of my Facebook groups last week. I think it was last week, Friday, we was discussing this. And one of the guys in it was like, ultimately, like, Gervonta is gonna be seen as a free division champion in the history books. Now I disagreed, and so did a few other people who was like, "Well, not regular belts don't count. Like, if you're not the primary champion of a division, you're not the champion in it." But he said, "No, that's how the history books are gonna see it." We said, "No, no, 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 no. That's not how it works." So then he said, "Well, if that's the case, how come someone like Povetkin or Shagayev were classed as champions when they didn't hold the primary belt?" And actually, it's a very good question. So I want to try and explain how that came about. And I know it might sort of go a bit long, but bear with me. Let me try and sort of break it down as concisely as I can. So the Super Championship was created off the back of Lennox Lewis um, petitioning to the WBA originally, where after him and Evander Holyfield unified to become undisputed, he was mandated to fight John Ruiz in his next fight, but he wanted to fight Michael Grant instead because I think it was more money involved. John Ruiz then sued to have the title stripped from him instead of, I think, a step aside, which was initially, I think, agreed. But he got sued through Don King, stripped him, and he ended up facing Evander Holyfield for that vacant WBA. So Lewis was like, "Well, I shouldn't have to deal with mandatories when there's much bigger fights that people want to see." And so I think the WBA then put into place, okay, this kind of super thing. For the first super champion for the heavyweight division didn't come about till 2011 when Vladimir Klitschko faced David Haye for the unified heavyweight championship. Now, back then, the super title was considered more of a designation, similar to how the WBC franchise championship is now, or the franchise designation, whatever Mauricio Sullivan calls it. I can't keep up. But the premise of it was that you wouldn't be bogged down with mandatories. Like, you would be, as a unified champ, you'd be able to go and fight whoever you wanted to fight, who the public wanted you to fight, or just who were the best matchups within your division. And you had to be a unified champ in order to gain this belt. But what they did was, in order to not hold up the division in the WBA, the regular title or the original world title was then sort of reinstated, and that was basically the title, and the super championship was like the designation. So even though that person was kind of seen as the main guy within, like people were still using the regular championship, or at this time it was just called the World Championship, to basically keep the division going. Now, Alexander Povetkin was the first guy to hold that world title after the Super Championship designation came in. And he actually defended that belt 4 times as well. Now, I believe back in the day, the ruling was if you defended that belt 3 times, it was 3 times or more, including a mandatory, then you could petition to fight the super champ, and it would be deemed, sort of a qualifying match of some sort. But the thing what a lot of people don't realize is that the reason Povetkin was actually considered a legitimate champion at the time is because Vladimir Klitschko was mandated to fight him. So not the other way around. Like Povetkin wasn't made the mandatory for Klitschko's super title. Vladimir Klitschko was mandated to fight Alexander Povetkin in a consolidation match. So essentially, it was almost like once when Vladimir Klitschko beat him, he took that world title distinction from him, and that was the very first and I believe last consolidation that the WBA had for the world title and the super title. After that fight, the super title itself became a singular entity within the division. So it was now seen as a belt that you could unify with, and it then became the head honcho, the number one, the primary, the numero uno belt. It was no longer like a designation, it became its actual own entity, which you could hold in singularity, because before you couldn't have the super title as a singular belt. You had to have been unified with another to be classed as a super champion by the WBA. After that, so after Povetkin lost that fight, the World Championship, which then became the WBA regular World Championship, then became a secondary belt within its division. The only time that regular title became essentially the full title or upgraded to the full title was if there was no super champion within the division. That didn't include being a champion recess, because that person was still seen as the super champion. It didn't include like an interim champion or anything either. Remember, this is at this time, so the WBA have done a whole lot of shit since then. But at this particular time, that was basically the ruling. So that secondary title was basically the same as the WBC silver title or the WBO intercontinental. I don't know what that one, or maybe the IBF International or something like that. It literally was their secondary belt, which just gave you like either the highest ranking or you were seen as maybe above the rankings. But at some point, if you followed the certain criteria and defended that belt a certain amount of times, you would be allowed to petition to challenge the super champ. Hence why. But I think the regular belt was the one that actually held its mandatories. And if you complete, and again, if you went on and did 3 mandatory defenses for that title, or for, you was definitely guaranteed to go and fight the super champ. Now, the only time the super champ is supposed to be mandated a defense these days, and again, if I'm wrong or if I'm misquoting, in the chat, tell me, and then I'll go and do more research and I'll correct it in a later video. But the regular champ deals with mandatories. The only time the super champ deals with a mandatory is if the regular champ is unable to, for whatever reason, whether through injury, through suspension, investigation. So when Anthony Joshua faced Alexander Povetkin for the WBA Super and obviously the Unified titles as well. He had to face him because Manuel Char was in the investigation over the tainted substance and the PED usage or whatnot. So that's why Joshua ended up having to face him. Otherwise, he would not have been mandated to face Povetkin. That's as far as the information I have on that. Again, as I said, if I'm wrong, put down in the chat, let me know. But I wanted to clear up that and as to why Povetkin was a legitimate world champion, whereas someone like Chagayev on his second run, or Lucas Brown and them man aren't actual champions. Like, yeah, they were WBA regular, so they were secondaries within the division. Like, they could have been the champion if no one else was there. I just wanted to put that out there, so that hopefully cleared up some stuff. As I said, anything I'm wrong about, let me know. But please don't use Wikipedia as your be all and end all, because it's not fully updated. Like, I've looked through it. It's not, it's not fully hitting like that. But again, anyway, I'm gonna leave this video here, and as I said before, if you could like and subscribe, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. I'll be back with a next one, probably talking about the boxing that's coming up over the weekend. Sky Sports' first boxer event since the split with Matchroom. So I'll let you know my thoughts on that and how I feel it panned out. But for right now, Hardcore Casual, out.